What's up, YouTube? That's right, I'm here. It's not Erod212, it's Justin424, all right? So, just came back from New York Comic Con. Long, 3 grueling, but fun days. Saw a lot of people there from the community. Picked up a lot of good books. I'll be able to show you the haul that I got. I think it's pretty good. See kind of where it ties into Marvel, whether it's the MCU, what books are coming out, why is it relevant today, what's good to read, what's good for characters, what's good for future spec. Hopefully we can get into all that. But it's my first video, so I just want to thank anybody who's out there watching, whether you know me from, my father's YouTube channel or whether you're just coming to check it out. Do appreciate that. So let's get started. All right. So now New York Comic Con hasn't been open since 2019. So we go in there. I know I'm digging for bins. It's the first thing I want to get into, whether it's half off. There were some deals that were 3 for $25. A sale off the sticker price. There were definitely, if you did some digging, there were deals to be had, whether it was regular books, such as, some of the big heavy hitters that go out and get, drop a couple $1,000s on a couple wall books. That's not my thing. It's never been my thing. I'm a story guy. So I'll talk stories all day, whether you're talking about Claremont and you want to talk about whoever's out there. Byrne, but that's what I like. That's where my passion is with comics. So let's get started. All right, so I picked this up. So we got Avengers vs. X-Men. It is a 2012 storyline. So sticker price is $34.99. What's great about this is that it was on sale for $5. All right, I think I got this. This was at Zap's Comics booth out in New York Comic Con. So great deal, because the best I could find it when I was looking it up was on Cheap Graphic Novels, which had it for $20. So right there, saved myself $15. But really solid storyline. I really love the way they kind of rate Cyclops' character. Bendis, once again, he's just one of the best to do it, of the modern era. Brian Michael Bendis, you're not going to find too many who has that, just a whole legacy of different stories, whether you want to talk about Miles, you want to talk about House of M, Bendis is no joke. All right, speaking of House of M, so I picked up this. I picked this up really because now that the hype on House of M died down a little bit after WandaVision aired, I was able to pick this up. I read it online on Read Comics Online, which, by the way, if you're looking to read and not spend too much money, excellent option to do that. Read Comics Online. Look that up. But yeah, I was able to read this, and it kind of got perspective of, in the aftermath of what happens with House of M. I'm not going to spoil it. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Go read it, and then you can go and comment later on. Anyway, basically the X-Men's point of view in the aftermath of the House of M event. Pretty good storyline. Not too expensive either. This was like $5 as well. All right, so now we got some FF goodness. All right, so first we got Wade and Rawingo. This is Fantastic Four. I haven't read this run in its entirety. I started it. I need to finish it though. So this was kind of one of the missing pieces, along with Volume 1. This was cheap. This was $7. This was $7. This was 40% off. I got this. It was originally 20 something. Yeah, I got it for about $15. So good price. Cheap. Thin paperbacks. Instead of spending, $75 on an omnibus that I knew I'd rather spend money on a more high profile, whether it be Hickman's run or whether it's Bendis or Dan Slott. It is a good read. It's a good run, but something that was missing in my collection. I wanted to make sure I had that. So I think for me it was a good option in the moment to go out and buy that for especially the one that was under $10. Because if you go to eBay, sometimes it's hit or miss. eBay, look, There's times where I've gotten deals where, wow, I got something out of print that, goes for sometimes, 200 bucks, and I get it for cheaper. And then sometimes you get, in this case specifically, the cheapest I could find it was about 20 bucks. But because I went digging in the bins, I got it for $7, which to me, you save yourself, a couple dollars right there. You can go and spend it on something else that, maybe it's better value. Another good example. So this one I got for half off. So originally 24, I got it for 12 bucks. If you go on eBay, you're not going to find this cheaper than 35. Even in a $35, you're gonna get a beater copy, like an acceptable. If you go on Amazon and try to order it, it's not going to be cheaper than 40. So there's that, and for something that's only carries issues 46 through 50, this is FF Volume 3. So this is after Claremont left. Carlos Pacheco had already started it, and this leads right into Mark Bagley's run when Valeria is born, Volume 3 FF. But good read right here. Speaking of which, so this has Inhumans 1 to 4. It's a miniseries with the FF, and it is Volume 3, Fantastic Four, 51 through 54. 54 obviously being the birth of Valeria after, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a whole retcon basically from John Byrne's run through what Claremont kind of reestablishes in Volume 3, and they kind of take care of the storyline and wrap it up going into the next era, which right after this leads into Wade and Ringo, basically, like I was talking about before. Some FF goodness. Now, this I haven't read. I bought this on I read, what the hell was the name? So it's James Robinson. At the end of his run, it's when basically they canceled the FF. The reason being that Marvel decided they weren't going to run with a comic anymore if, Fox was, going to do them, like they did with the 3 poor movies that they did. So they cut the book off for about 3 years, between like 2015 through 2018. There was no regular Fantastic Four book being released by Marvel Comics. So in this case, they kind of ended it with the real, nostalgic run. I haven't read it yet, but near mint condition, definitely recommended the run. And so this is something that I'm basically reading on a dare. So Uncanny Omar, I'm relying on you with this one. I think it's going to be good because I love the family dynamic of it. I think that's the most essential part of FF. Yes, they're scientists. Yes, they're superheroes. But at heart, the story is about family. It's about 4 people, the 2 kids, and all the adventures they go on. And hopefully this is as good as I've read that it is. Speaking of FF, I got another book. This is actually one of my favorite reads. This is early Dan Slott before he became the regular Spider-Man writer. So it's got issue 1 through 5, Spider-Man, Human Torch. And what's great about this is that, you can see that better. What's great about this issues is that they cover a different era of basically the chronological history of Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. So it starts off in the 60s, you go into the 70s, there's an issue with that ties back into Gwen Stacy, another issue that ties into the Spider-Mobile, which is obviously classic, Johnny Storm and Peter Parker adventures, goes into the 80s with Black Cat, and then it finally actually wraps up with, well, I don't want to spoil the ending because there is a nice little thing that happens at the end, but I would highly recommend anybody that is a fan of the interactions between Spider-Man and Peter Parker, whether you've read ASM 1 from 1963 or you've read obviously Secret Wars 8, the Bagman issue. If you're a fan of their interactions, get this book. You can get this for $15-20 on eBay. You can get this at cons. This book is around. It's not an out of print book. It comes in hardcover or trade paperback. They also have the soft cover. But I think the artwork's good, and I think the story has a lot of heart. I think it's underrated, to be honest. So definitely one of my more most memorable Spidey reads that I've read, and I read a lot of Spider-Man. So another one of my favorites. So quick story on this book. So with the con obviously being what it was and just digging through, I had seen it on my second day on Friday afternoon, and I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, maybe I'll wait for the omnibus, and I'm like, I went home, I slept on it. I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna get the trade right now. And it comes in 2 volumes in a trade. So volume 1 I didn't see, but volume 2, which to me is the meat of the storyline, because it's when most of the action really happens, and a lot of the development. So involves a couple teams. So you may have heard of them: X Factor and X-Men. It's one of my favorite Claremont stories. That's Inferno. So this is volume 2. This covers through 241 and Uncanny 241 to 243 and X Factor 37 to 40. Really good storyline, and just had to have this in the collection. I mean, it's a huge key. Not only once Jean comes back, but in the way obviously Sinister, one of my personal favorite X-Men villains, Madeline Pryor. A lot of good stuff in here. Classic X-Men. Okay. All right, we're about halfway through. All right, so let's go run through this Executioner Song. Epics. You want to talk about reading material, trade paperbacks, epic collection formats? These are some of my favorite. The Reason, bang for your buck value. Now, they were selling them in the bins for half off. So cover sticker was $34.99, and guess how much? Half off. $17 I paid for this. That's right, $17 for basically the whole Executioner Song. And I know some people aren't a huge fan of this storyline. It's basically the first big tie-in they had after Claremont and Lee left. So the teams were kind of in shambles in terms of creatively what direction was X-Men going to go in. So this is 1992. At the time, Cable wasn't officially considered the son of Cyclops and Jean. They hadn't gotten to that storyline. That happens about a year and a half later. But it's a really good storyline. It's really how the legacy virus comes about. That's basically the big result of this book, and that will lead obviously to Ileana dying at some point, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But it's a good read. It's not my favorite from the 90s, but it's pretty solid. The reason I got it, and you see, well, do you read X-Force? No, I don't read X-Force. But you go look, it has the whole run of Executioner Song. So it's really not an X-Force book. It's a story arc that they put, and sometimes they do that with epics. I've seen it done before with the oh my god, not Infinity Gauntlet. They did it with Spider-Man Venom. They did it with Maximum Carnage. That was the big one they did it with, where they jammed all 14 parts. It's considered an ASM epic collection, but it's really just a Maximum Carnage trade paperback in this type of format. But it's full color, clean, nice, glossy pages for an affordable price. You're not paying omnibus dollars in that sense. So for me, $17, it's a home run. And I knew going in prices. So you try to get Executioner Song via the Uncanny line, the trade, because it's out of print right now. It's going for about almost $40. So for me, I'm gonna save money right like this. And who cares? Cable's on the cover. At some point, he's gonna be back in the movies. But for me, it was definitely a win. All right, another one of my favorites, Jean Grey. So when she comes back, obviously 1986, Rose out of the cocoon, she wakes up, and that leads straight into X Factor. It's a really nice read. It really ties in, especially if you've read Uncanny and you've read 90s X-Men. But for me, growing up, I read Claremont, Cockrum Byrne. So basically Giant Size, 94, all the way through 143. And then for a while, I didn't read a lot of that stuff. I had the Essential X-Men in the black and white, the phone book. I had that from volume 1 and 2. And then basically I didn't read anything through like the 80s up until Jim Lee stuff. And that's how it was up until about 3-4 years ago, when I finally sat down and I read Claremont's run start to finish. Really just tried to educate myself on basically the whole mythology and the whole backstory of where everything came from, all the storylines, just so I felt like it was more well-rounded. I think it made me appreciate animated series more. It made me appreciate the movies more, and just overall, like the whole saga of it is just phenomenal. And obviously Jean's one of my favorite characters, right up there with Scott and Logan. But it's a good read, real quick, only a couple issues, but an important storyline in the development of the character. Speaking of Jean, Phoenix Endzone. So this is a nice kind of wrap up to the character. So after she gets killed off at the end of Grant Morrison's run, so this is 2005, they came out with a miniseries where basically Jean is trying to get reunited with the Phoenix Force. She rises out of the grave. Just really good storyline. I think the artwork is definitely underrated. Solid story. And after this, she doesn't come about for about 13 years. So they kept her dead for, well, even longer than they did in the 80s. But really good storyline. I would recommend that, definitely. All right. Spider-Man. Return of the Burglar. All right. Definitely one of my favorite covers. I feel like this cover does not get as much love as it should. It's just a classic Spidey pose. And then on the back, a little Black Cat love. So that's first appearance 194. So this has a few keys, 193 through 200. So for me, super important because I just got the omnibus recently for that ends in 180. I got the masterwork that covers 180 to 192, and then this is going to be 193 to 200. So now I own basically everything from 1 to 200. So definitely important in the Spidey mythos. All right. Another pretty important Spider-Man storyline. Doesn't really get a lot of attention, but if you dig in on like greatest Spider-Man stories of all time, you will hear this get mentioned probably more often than you would think. And that's Death of Jean the Wolf. Pretty good storyline. I'm not going to spoil it, but I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for something different than just, the drug issue or, Night Gwen Stacy died or all that stuff. Definitely. All right. So we got more Fantastic Four, Wade and Maringo. So this goes with the other trades that I had from earlier in this video. And definitely important because I wanted to make sure that my run is complete with all, FF key, runs. All right. Definitely if we're talking about Marvel events, we think of Civil War, we think of Secret Invasion. House of M is one of my, if not probably my favorite so far. Read that, it was phenomenal. I read it multiple times, honestly. But to have the trade, I feel like is super important in the collection. Definitely. Hopefully at some point we see some type of iteration on this on screen. I know people were waiting for it on WandaVision. Who knows? I mean, I know everyone's sick and tired of Magneto in movies, but this storyline is just, well, it's awesome. All right. We got another one right here. So we got Spider-Man and FF, except that it is the modern day version of it. So basically Franklin Richards, he is no longer, 5, 6, 7 years old. They've, begun to write him as an older, more mature character. So it's really kind of the evolution of it, and it really kind of starts to dig in this storyline with where he's going to go and what's his place. Is he, part of the FF family, but he's also a mutant, and they would kind of address that in this book. So this is also another book that I recommend. All right. And then we got last two. We got some Spider-Man and FF goodness. Definitely I like this storyline because it was just about really how both of them, both teams are different, yet at the same time, Spider-Man is absolutely part of that FF family. You've seen it time and time again in history. Nice quick 4-issue read. There's a little moment where, they give the Force symbol and they give it to Spidey to kind of just like be on the team and help with this mission. So it's a nice quick read, but definitely recommend that as well. And this was the end of the Scott Lobdell era. Pretty solid. Has some key issues, obviously, that the Colossus right here. So really nice emotional issues. Obviously, he comes back eventually, but it's pretty much the end of the 90s era, because this leads pretty much right after this is the reset with Morrison. But definitely for me, somebody who grew up on 90s X-Men, it was kind of, missing piece that I needed in my collection, at least. But yeah, so that's the haul. Obviously a lot of stuff. Still a lot more that I want to fill in the gaps on my collection and whatnot. But it's coming along. I feel pretty good about it. Some stuff is going to be in Omni format. Some stuff is just going to be trade, soft cover. And that's really at my discretion. It's not any specifics that I look for. If I feel a super important storyline and something that I can afford an omnibus, I'm going to try and get it. Right now, I'm not going for anything that's out of print. For example, John Byrne FF Volume 2. That's going for about $250, $300 on eBay and any second market. So not going for any of that right now. Like eventually when the movie comes out, they'll re-release that. But for right now, I'm really trying to focus on the stuff that's coming up. There's so much. Marvel's putting out a ton of books over the next year. If you will go and watch Near Mint Condition, he'll tell you all about it. There's a lot coming out, and that's pretty much what I'll be sharing as far as not only my hauls, what I get, but what I think is important to spec on in the future. What books, whether it's we know that Hawkeye's coming, we know Miss Marvel's coming, we know She-Hulk's coming. That's stuff that I'm going to be focused on, whether it's reading it and just talking at plot points, or just seeing what else that we could buy that's on the open market. But there's a lot, so that's pretty much the haul, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and see you guys all soon. Happy to be here.